Hi, and welcome to this episode of The Purpose Turn. Today, I have the pleasure to welcome Kris Richardson from Richardson Clean, who has a fascinating background story and who has been introduced by a friend, Whitney. Shout out to you. Thank you so much for putting us in contact. And with that, welcome, Kris.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on.
Kris, I know you have an Instagram channel, so you told me before you're nervous, but I think you are amazing in what you do. Not only the window cleaning, but also your Instagram channel. So if you ever wanted to binge watch window cleaning videos, I highly recommend it, Kris. I never thought I would do that, but I went on the channel and I found myself watching window cleaning videos for 5 minutes. That being said, I think what's even more fascinating is Kris's story. He was at one point in his life a COO and now operates his own window cleaning business. And I don't know in which period of life you are, but if you have a job with a title at a good company, you might be asking yourself, what should I be doing? Is there anything else? And there might be some options where on paper, it might not sound like a great move, the obvious move, or the move that anybody else would recommend you're doing, but you still feel like this could be the right move. And so that's why I'm so happy to have Kris here today. Kris, before we get into your story, can you tell us a little bit about your business and what you're doing on a day-to-day basis?
Sure. So the company's name is Richardson Clean. We're out here in southwestern Ontario. I operate out of Windsor, and we work all throughout the Windsor area, not quite all the way to Chatham. If you know the area, it's a neat area to work in, and our primary service is window cleaning. We also do soft washing or power washing houses, depending on how you want to say it. We do gutter cleaning, and we also do chandelier cleaning, which is a very unique thing. There are not a lot of companies, honestly, in the world that do it, and there's nobody out our way that does it. So I took it upon myself to learn how to do that. So if it's dirty and it's difficult and you want it cleaned right, that's what I do. A far cry from what I used to do.
Yeah. Talking about it, what did you used to do?
Well, my used to do, so let's be very honest now. I'm turning 49 in a couple of weeks. I started in IT. I started on a help desk in Markham, Ontario in 2001. I worked my way up through management. I worked for a company called CGI for many, many years. A great company, great people, really interesting world. But I worked my way to upper management just through luck and hard work, a good combination of those two things. And there's a natural progression that you move along. And I just sort of went with that flow, I suppose, and ended up with a really good job, but not really sure how I got there, I think, in my heart. And I didn't dislike what I did. Certainly didn't dislike the people I work with. I love the people I work with. But there was certainly something missing.
At what point did that stop feeling like enough, where, as you said, that there was something missing?
I would say maybe it started about 5 years ago or so. So for context, Richardson Clean has been a full-time operation for just over 2 years. I like to say three just because it started off as a kind of a side hustle. So maybe about 5 years ago or so, I was starting to look for what can I, financially for starters. Everyone's looking for, a way to stop working, you know, by retirement age by minimum, ideally, and I think I was a bit greedy. I was like, I want to be able to pay to send my son to university when the time comes, which was coming up quickly, and also have a comfortable retirement for my wife and I. And I wasn't seeing a direct pathway through my full-time employment that way. I don't think I'm alone in that one, but I mean, the job paid well, great benefits, all that, but I wanted a little more security. And so, I probably started looking for passive income opportunities. Right? Which is the best, looking for a free lunch is, I started looking for that, which of course it's not really a thing. I would say it was about 5 years ago, and it wasn't any one individual thing. It was that culmination of that need for security and control, maybe a little bit of that too.
And at the time, I mean, 5 years ago, roughly 2021, did COVID play into that, or how was that for you?
That's a good point. Yeah, COVID didn't help. One of the things that happened during COVID was I had always worked in an office with people. I quite like working in an office with people. I quite like people. And so what happened during COVID is everybody went home, which was quite a big change for me. I did not love that.
Hmm.
And, overall, the company and the IT world really sort of went home and stayed home in a big way. And so, yeah, if I wanted to go into an office and talk with somebody or have another, human in front of me, as much as I love talking to you right now through the video phone and all that, I did not love having that be the primary way that I was going to be working with people going forward. So, yeah, that was certainly a driver. It did
Yeah.
not help. COVID did not help. As much as I have a big office. I'm very lucky. The house that we bought just happened to have this old lawyer style office, but I don't like being in it. I like being outside.
Outside. And
So,
that's what you're doing right now, right? So you found yourself working from home, feeling a little bit like there's something missing here. Part of it might have been the connection to other people. Another consideration being looking into the future. The income was good, the job was good, but certainly not what we all get promised online with passive, easy income and side hustles and all these kind of things. So, how did you go from these first considerations to owning a window cleaning business?
yeah, not just owning a window cleaning business, starting one from scratch. That was not initially the plan. I had a conversation with a friend who was encouraging me to find some other business. I was very fortunate to have a couple people who had offered to even lend me some money to buy a business if I wanted to. And so I thought, I will make the best of both worlds. Passive income is probably a bit of a misnomer, but I could certainly find a small business where the owners are aging out that I can buy and I can hire someone to manage or something. And, I can be involved, but not have to be there full time.
How did you know that you would be able to do this? What gave you the confidence to pursue that and be like, yeah, I'm going to be good at this to the point that your friend said, well, Kris, if you ever need money, let me know.
I mean, okay, so part of that is the first thing. It's important to have good friends, who might believe you if you say you can do a thing. I don't always, like many people, maybe I don't always see that in myself, but I'm lucky that some people do see that in me. And so I just started looking. I looked high and low. So I looked to the point where people had asked me, do I want to buy a tool and die company? It's only $2.6 million, no big deal. And I went, no, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. And so I started asking kind of everywhere, every small business I walked into, if I happened to go there. I was in a locksmith getting keys made for a friend. And I find myself asking, can I talk to the owners of the business? I'm assessing to see how old they are. And that went through several different businesses and iterations. I looked online for businesses to buy. I initially was looking for online businesses to buy, like drop shipping companies, passive income. Kind of just spend an extra 40 hours a week on top of your job trying to keep a handle on. And then eventually, not far from my home, a car wash came up for sale. And so this car wash, I got to tell you, so I've worked in IT forever, but I am also a hands-on person. I got a chainsaw. I know how to use it. I fix things. I fix engines. I fix machines, electrical. I love all these things. I love learning and I love fixing things. And so we go and look at this car wash, my wife and I, and she's excited because this is a self-serve car wash. So it's not full hands-on, no full-time employee, but certainly requires a full-time eye, to keep it going. It needed some repairs. And so we went down this rabbit hole, learning how this business worked while we at the same time tried to deal with the fairly eccentric owners of this business. And in the end, it fell apart, probably for the best, but it started me down this whole world of cleaning. The cleaning world it is deep and it is wide and it is fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Like IT, like any other, category, it is, to me, I found it absolutely fascinating.
I'm curious, what makes it so fascinating? Because I assume most people out there, they don't really like cleaning. Like that's why they hire people to get stuff clean. So what makes this world fascinating to you?
Okay, so let's start with one thing. I found myself during the same time period, when I would be stressed, I recognized for the first time that if I was stressed, you know what I would do? I would go around and I would clean things. It had never occurred to me before. I never looked down at my hands and went, why are you dusting right now? What are you doing? I would go through the kitchen and I would be cleaning the countertop thoroughly, thoroughly. And so when I say that I find cleaning, the cleaning world or cleaning science fascinating is because it really is a science. Cleaning is, as much as there's a physicality to it, the chemicals and the reactions required to clean things are amazing. And you can just as easily make something beautiful as destroy it. Everyone's used the wrong thing on something at some point and left a mark. And so for me, researching what's the best way to handle this situation and clean this particular thing off of this particular surface without wrecking either of them, or the thing below it, or to the right of it, or to the left of it, or me, how do you do that?
Mm.
And that is like I said, if you want to remove, say, cement off of glass, and not damage the aluminum anodized frame below it, there's a whole process to that. And it is not as simple as you might think. It's simple once you know. And so, yeah, and just in cleaning things, you come across these little situations constantly. And for me, initially, it was just another thing to learn how to do. I love learning new skills. I'm that kind of ADHD where I pick up, this week we're going to learn how to weld. Let's weld some stuff.
I love how that sits squarely between something that's deeply recreational for you and something that is about activating you in terms of learning and figuring things out, and probably also provides you with a similar satisfaction that you have when you fix things. And on top of all of this, it also allows you to be in contact with people on a daily basis.
Right. Yeah, it ticks a lot of boxes for me. I said earlier, these big long-term projects, they were really difficult for me to kind of keep in my head. Juggling 6 or 8 projects that are 3 months, 4 months, a year long, I would get pretty discombobulated. And that's despite the sticky notes and the Slack messages and the even AI helping there in the last couple of years. It didn't work in my brain. And so if I go to a home, I'm cleaning at least 50 windows, one at a time. Each one in my head is its individual project, that it looks terrible and it requires special skills that I have. And I will clean that window and then I will put it back together. And at the end, the customer is usually ecstatic because, I don't know if you've had your windows cleaned,
Oh,
but
yeah, I
when
did.
somebody else, yeah, when someone else cleans your windows and they do a good job, it really changes things. That's that, you mentioned the people, and that is something that I think, I mean, I don't know that it's underrated, but maybe it sounds insincere when people say things like what I'm about to say. But I promise you, it's very sincere. In my case, we go into someone's home, and it doesn't matter how big their house is, it doesn't matter the situation. But if their windows have been dirty for a long time, it, in my observation, it does something to you to slowly have your world kind of not fade out, but get dimmer and duller slowly. And so you've got these big panes of glass everywhere that may or may not be stressing you out in a way that you can actively recognize. I certainly, doing what I do, I am very honest with myself. When I see my kitchen windows, they get lots of rain on them, slowly get dirtier and dirtier. It gives me a twinge of stress every time I walk by the window, you know?
Yeah.
And so I find that very often, and I love seeing this, is that we will finish and the customer has been somewhere and they come back into their house and they look around and they just have this bright light like pop into their faces like something magic just happened.
Mm.
And it's amazing to see. It's like we lifted something off their shoulders that built up slowly, slowly, slowly and was stressing them out. And then boom, they're just a little bit happier. The world is literally a little bit brighter and it's magic. I don't know how to say. I'm sure there's very simple psychological explanations for it, but it's magic. It's very satisfying.
Kris, you're really selling us here on everybody should start a window cleaning business because it sounds super interesting, deeply fulfilling, and purposeful at the same time. Now, my assumption is that it didn't feel like this from the outset. And I'm very curious about how did you get started? I mean, when did you have your first cleaning job ever? And how did that materialize? And how did you go from there?
You were talking earlier about about my Instagram and some of the window cleaning videos and how addictive they are to watch. And when I had started down the car wash route, I must have clicked on some window cleaning videos somewhere because all of a sudden my feed was filled with guys explaining how to clean windows and doing that, soaping up the window really, really well and doing that really nice, smooth, squeegee action that just you can't help but watch. And so when I thought, okay, let's take a look at doing this. Can this be my side hustle? Could I build it into something later? Let's try it. I'm very much feet first, head first. Let's go. Cannonball into it. So I went to Home Depot. I bought a squeegee, I bought a T-bar, I bought the soap, I got the bucket for about $50. I'm ready to go, right? That's what they say online, right? Get started for $50 or $20. So I'm like, okay, well, look, it costs several $100s to clean the windows on my house. So I'm going to spend 40, $50. I'll clean my windows and we'll see how it goes. It went okay. It went okay. It was a bit awkward, even following all the instructions, but it is a skill. There's a flow to it, a process to it that you really have to do 1,000 windows before you start to get into a proper flow. And so I did my house. It took me a while, but I liked it and it turned out well. but there were a few things here and there, something stuck on the glass here or there that I, couldn't get. And then I had to look that up. And then I find myself, it's 2 o'clock in the morning and I've been watching how-to videos on cleaning and how to clean this and how to clean that for hours, hours and hours and hours. And so I did a neighbor's, I did my mom's house like everybody does. Did my neighbors, did my mom's house. I did some friends. And then I just sort of hung out a shingle, basically. I just, created the entity. Initially, we were Richardson Window and Exterior Care. Something like that was the name. I had shirts made and the whole thing, and then all of a sudden I'm going out and I'm doing a quote here and there, right? I'm going and I'm meeting somebody. I'm convincing them to let me come to their house and clean their windows, having cleaned a whole 4 or 5 houses before that. And then it snowballed. From there, it did well. I didn't do the door-to-door thing. I didn't market aggressively. I'm not a big sales guy. I'm definitely a people guy, but I'm not a set you up for the sales pitch kind of person. If I do that, it's completely by accident. It happens, but it's not on purpose. That's where it got started. I just got, I don't know a better word than obsessed. I got obsessed. My family was very sick of hearing about it. I can
Yeah.
tell you that.
So initially, at that point, it was still a side hustle. What did your family think?
Well, we'd have to ask them to be sure. And maybe I will in therapy someday. But I think part of it was they were seeing me do something they'd seen me do many times before. They had seen buy every broken chainsaw I could find to learn how to fix two-stroke engines. They had seen me do that for months, researching the parts and researching the best way to do this and do that. And then they had seen me go down a fabrication route where I taught myself to weld in 3 different ways and different things. And I was fixing things and I was building things. And then they saw me shift gears into something else. And then, we're refinishing the basement. And so I think at first it was kind of like, wait, I thought this was just a hobby. This was just another thing you were going to pick up and put down, because it's not like I didn't set the pattern. I certainly did that. We were deep into 3D printing, for 4 months. My son and I were going around the neighborhood offering to sharpen everyone's lawnmower blades and their kitchen knives. We had done like every father-son side hustle you can think of. We went down those roads, which brought me to here. It stuck, I think. It stuck.
This was a side hustle at that point. And you started out buying the bucket, a couple of other things, cleaning your own house, cleaning friend's house, then realizing, hey, this could actually be something. How did you get from there to making this a full-time thing and investing your future into it?
A couple things happened at the same time. At my full-time job, things were going well, but I was starting to feel a bit out of place. My heart was starting to shift from this IT digital environment to more than just a little yearning to be outside. You know, I mean, it's a bit of a cliche. People sit inside all day in the comfortable air conditioning, wishing they were outside. And the guys outside and the gals outside are right out in the sun and the wind and the rain and the snow, wishing they were inside some of the time. And I think I just had shifted fully from thinking about it and wishing about it to really, whether I knew it or not at the time, really wanting to be there.
Mhm.
And so at the same time, a friend of mine put me in touch with an older window cleaner who was looking to sell his book of business. And so that to me, I was like, okay, here we go. Now I have an opportunity that fits perfectly with the thing that I'm currently obsessed with. So, good timing, stroke of luck. And medium story short, it ended up that he just stopped answering my calls. We were looking at a 5-figure purchase of a book of business and got ghosted. But I had put so much of myself into how am I going to do this? If I buy a book of business next week, you have to start working next week. And so I was making preparation at my job to make arrangements to exit my position and leave the company in a good state. The position I was in, you can't just walk away. That's not an option. So I negotiated an exit there. Well, the thing I was stepping over to disappeared. And that's what I decided to do. I was like, I'm already doing it. I don't care. I'm not going to not do it. Got to do it.
Yeah.
And so Richardson Window and Exterior Care morphed into something else, into something else. I had half my family working on names and logos. And inside of a week, we had Richardson Clean as a very simply branded, clean logo and branding. And the idea was I can build a business around the type of person that wants their windows cleaned and cleaned well, or, their house cleaned on the exterior, cleaned well. This was my biggest leap so far. But when I go down these pathways, I'm looking for opportunity the whole way. Sure, I'm going straight ahead and I'm doing this, but at the same time, I'm looking for opportunities in this space. Because if you dig, there are probably 25 to 30 individual window cleaners and window cleaning companies in the area that I live in.
Wow.
Easily, because they're hard to find. So if you do a quick Google search, you're going to find the top three, the top five, no problem, who all do very similar things, or they do everything, but a couple of things they focus on, which is kind of what I did. I started the business. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do window cleaning. I'm going to do soft washing, which is washing the exterior of a home. And I started doing that and I just went for it. Unfortunately for my family, my wife in particular, this was really the moment where she went, wait, you're doing this full time now? I thought I had communicated it well, but I guess I wasn't that clear. We made the decision together ish. But I guess I did kind of push us into this position, which has not been a bad thing. It's just been a big change. It's a lot.
It surely is. I mean, especially what you said before, you wanted to find something that set you up for retirement long term that would allow you to make more money, ideally passively. And now you're out there every day cleaning windows. I mean, like you love it. So, as they say, if you love what you do, you never work another day in your life. But what is your attitude towards your business? We heard a little bit about that in terms of how you position yourself, how you set it up. You certainly have, in comparison to the businesses I see here, a very sophisticated presence. You have a brand promise, all these things. So how are you thinking about the future, given these long-term aspirations?
Ooh, that's a great question. So when I started, I put my name on the business, or our name, I should say, for a couple of reasons. And one is, in the moments where I think to myself, it's too hot or I'm too tired or I'm too whatever to do the job. You get to the end of a hard job and sometimes in the last hour or so, you just want to just get it done. And it's very easy for me. I look in the mirror on the reflection on the job, or I take a look at my truck and I am instantly reminded that I have my family name on everything. And that's a wonderful motivator. So having spent this time now learning how to use the different tools and learning some different techniques, many of them really, I'm a full on window cleaning nerd. A couple things have happened. So I took a collaboration point of view. I saw a video somewhere. And the caption on the video was collaboration, not competition. And I don't think it was in window cleaning. It was in some other industry. And they were talking about how meeting who would be your competitors and talking with them helps all of you do better and be better at what you do. And so as I got better and got more confident, I started doing that. I reached out to different companies who I knew were either, owner operator or maybe one or two or a couple employees, and just invited them for coffee, invited them for lunch. My thought being, you're not going to teach me any of your secrets or anything, but we're in the same space. I'm driving past you on the road. I would like to wave as opposed to go, did they see me? Are they mad? Did they see window cleaning on the side? And did they go, "Arr." But by and large, they've all been wonderful and they're great, great collaborators. At this point, I have a few people that I can bounce ideas off because we all have different standards, different techniques, different personalities, certainly. But I got to the point where I was ready to hire somebody just this past, about 2 months ago. I hired my first employee. So it was pretty exciting. I had been thinking about it. I was like, okay, I'm ready. How do I hire someone without being flooded with spam? How do I do that? And so part of reaching out to other cleaning companies was I was kind of soft looking for if they knew someone that needed work, then I'd be able to go to them. But what ended up happening was I was asked to quote on a project for the Mercedes dealership in town, and they had just renovated everything. So the construction crews are starting to pull out, and now they want those inside windows that go from floor all the way, 30 something feet in the air cleaned. And somebody recommended me to quote, which I'm very grateful for, through one of those collaborations. And the construction company accepted my bid. I did not think they would, being honest, but it was a rush job. And so I was going to go from, just me cleaning to needing help immediately. And so I immediately got on the phone to everybody that I had met. But of course, they were also very busy. All the window cleaners I called, rightfully so, laughed and said, absolutely not. But, I was a bit more audacious. So I reached out to a couple different companies. One was a very good house cleaner that I have crossed paths with a few times. I think this was on the Wednesday I started this. And so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I worked from 7 o'clock at night till about 10:30 at night until they were shutting the lights off and turning the alarm on, and I had to go. And I'm there at a scissor lift and I am, strapped in and I'm doing all this work, which luckily I had taken the time to learn how to use a scissor lift and a boom lift and got my certification. So anyway, and then I ended up not being allowed to go in on the Sunday, which took a whole 10 hours off of my timeline. And I almost had a heart attack. And I said, okay, well, I'm screwed now. I got to finish on Saturday by 7. couldn't even stay late after they were closed. I cried. I definitely cried in frustration. And I was very scared I wasn't going to be able to do it. You know, my first big opportunity happened to be a last minute rush job. You can't rush window cleaning. You can be efficient. And I certainly got more efficient while I was doing it, but you can't rush it. Plus, I had to train somebody. So luckily, this house cleaning company, she gave me the gentleman that I hired wound up being her son. And so I like to say I stole him from his mother, who was an excellent housekeeper. So he was trained how to work and how to move in a cleaning environment. So I got him part way. He just happens to be a smart and attentive person. And I was able to train him how to clean windows in 5 minutes and just set him to work while I went about doing all the difficult things. I had him working on the ground while I was working, up in the top. And it worked out. We worked well together. And I hired him to stay with me. And he's been learning and learning as we go. So I got very lucky in that I was able to find somebody very quickly who happened to be someone that was a great fit.
As you said, luck favors the prepared. And when I listen to your story, it
Yes.
seems like that all the things you did with your son or by yourself, from two-stroke engines to sharpening blades to learning how to operate a scissor lift, it kind of prepared you for the opportunities that were coming your way. Now, somebody else out there listening is a COO or is in a position where they're like, it's not me anymore. And I feel like I need to start a side hustle or like something that generates some income for me. Based
Sure.
on your experience, what's your advice?
Buy the car wash. Probably no. I don't know any other way to do it except how I did it, I suppose. I don't really have any regrets yet. I should say that because we are just in our third year. So we are very young in small business standards. We made it past the 70% of small businesses die in the first year point, but I think isn't the stat 50% within 5 years? So I don't want to speak from a confident place yet and give advice to anybody except that I feel like the world does favor people that are prepared and just ridiculously optimistic. That's one thing I will say to anyone considering doing this is treat it like a business from the start and keep your family finances and your business separate. Like right away, as soon as you picked a path, it doesn't cost much to go into your bank or call your bank and create a small business account. Super easy to do. And that gives this nice line between your family's finances and this thing you're doing. It makes it easier to keep track of. Don't be like me and go to Princess Auto, every day for 3 months, building out a washing trailer and different things for your business, and then suddenly go, oh shoot, now I have to comb through all my Visa bills. Your family's not going to love it, for starters. But also, it just makes it difficult from an administrative sense, just to keep track of everything. Oh, and it makes it real. It really does make it real because you're going to play around with different things like I did, and they're going to be fun, and that's great. And then one day something is going to stick. And so the one thing I wish I did differently was when the thing started to stick, I wish I had separated the finances right away,
Okay.
just to make life easy and life simple.
Kris, thank you so much for spending the time with us. This was a pleasure. I loved hearing you nerd out about window cleaning. And I think that shows how when somebody really loves what they're doing, how that impacts them in the way they feel, the way they show up. And just to add to what you said in terms of luck, I think it's, yes, being prepared, but also fostering opportunity. And I think just by the way you show up, how you talk about what you do in this passionate, engaged way, you're basically seeding opportunity. With that, if there's anybody out there living in the Windsor area, where can they find your business?
You can find me at richardsonclean.ca. That's easy. You can give me a call, 519-963-6161. You can find me on Instagram and get yourself addicted to those videos. They will ruin your algorithm, I promise. In a good way. In a good way.
Kris, thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Take care.